Well, a restructured South African Airways is about to take off. This week, the business rescue plan was finally approved. That's after all conditions, including a government guarantee to lenders, have been met. Finance Minister Tito Mboweni has said the 10 billion rand needed for the restructuring won't come from the fiscus or the IMF loan. Let's discuss this further with senior business rescue practitioner Robin Nicholson. Good evening, Mr. Nicholson. Thanks very much for your time. Reading in the Business Day today, it seems the green light has been given for that 10 billion. Looking at this whole deal, is it clear where that money will come from?
Not completely, Sally. I mean, they've been talking about a strategic partnership for a while, but they have not yet given the full details of it, other than to say that they've got the money.
Yes, and they're saying that they will support and mobilise, but they're not actually saying they're going to stump up the cash, are they?
No, they aren't, and they're very unclear about that, which is a bit of an issue for rescue plans. Generally, you're quite clear about where the funding is coming from.
All right, so there's still question marks around where that money, the 10 billion, which is my understanding that's going to support the severance packages and pay back some of the creditors. But there's a larger amount of about 16 billion rand, which is a guaranteed repayment to the banks. Tell us about that and how that fits into all of this.
Well, that really fits into the pre-commencement finance package and the government guarantees, and that will come from government and go back to pay back the existing government guarantees and debts in terms of the old SAA. So that cash will flow as and when it's required in terms of those contracts.
All right, so that money is already built in. That's not in dispute?
No, that's not in dispute.
So that's coming from the fiscus?
Well, they haven't given any indication that it's coming from anywhere else. But yes, that government guarantees were issued by government to the creditors, so they will have to fund that.
Okay, so what happens now? You say there are some question marks, but as a business rescue practitioner yourself, you know the process from here on in. What should be happening now that there's an agreement?
Well, the way SAA's rescue plan is structured, there's an administrator that's been put in place. That company will take over the consolidation of the debt and the payment of the creditors, and the new company, SAA without its debt, will commence trading, and they've been quite clear in their plan exactly how that's going to work, in terms of which flights they're flying, when that will commence, what they will do around ticket sales that have been occurred prior to the COVID-19 interruption, and the like. So they've detailed that out in quite some detail exactly when those flights will start happening, and they've also put some big timelines around it. So the recommencement of SAA is fairly well detailed in the plan.
And how much money does that require, and where is that money coming from? Is that coming from the 10 billion?
Well, that's the 10 billion, yeah.
And we don't know where the 10 billion is coming from?
Well, they've been talking about strategic partners for a while, but, it's not clear exactly who's going to stump up the cash now.
And what about the severance packages? How soon can those be paid out?
The administration committee is put in place. Once the plan is approved and adopted, which it now is, they will begin the preparation of those packages and make the payaways. They'll probably have to apply for tax directives, and that, so it might take 2 or 3 weeks, but I wouldn't anticipate it would take much longer once the funding's in place.
Exactly. So it's all dependent on the funding. Am I right? The severance packages can't be paid out until we know the 10 billion is in the bank.
Well, it's the cash to pay them.
I beg your pardon?
It does not have the cash to pay them. It does not have the cash to pay them until the 10 billion is in.
So, I mean, we keep coming back to the same issue. SAA Rescue Plan gets 10 billion rand green light, according to the Business Day this morning. It's been approved. All conditions have been approved. And yet, as you say, as a business rescue practitioner yourself, you'd be looking at that going, I'm not too sure where the money's coming from, and there is no strategic partner yet. What would you do at this point?
Well, Sally, it's a bit like when you buy a house. You agree to buy and sell. You've got an agreement that you can buy and sell the house, and then you have to go and raise the money from the bank. And that's where they are with this plan. I mean, they've agreed the structure of the plan, how the business will run in future, who will be employed, who won't be, what the severance packages are going to be. Now they've literally gone to the bank, and the bank has not given them an answer yet on the 10 billion.
All right, so the next move really is the bank, and they owe the bank 16 billion, right?
Well, no, the 16 billion gets paid back to the bank as it falls due in terms of the plan. I'm talking about the 10 billion. In the example of buying or selling a house, you've got everything completed, but the bank has got to give you the money before the deal is done. And that's where this thing sticks. Where is the 10 billion coming to fund the actual plan itself?
What would your concerns be at this point if you were managing this deal? Who would you be talking to? Where would you be raising a red flag, if at all?
Well, I think the red flag's obvious. When is this money going to flow, and who's it going to flow from? And is it going to be domestically funded, or is it going to have a foreign debt component to it? Because those things will change it quite significantly. If you borrow $10, 10 billion rand in dollars, and the rand goes the wrong way, you're back into the same kind of trap that the SAA found itself in some years ago. Where it's got unhedged foreign exchange liabilities, and that can cost you a lot of money. We have a very volatile currency for many reasons, but COVID-19 isn't helping rand stability right now. So a lot of this depends on who's funding it, how it's being funded in terms of rands and cents or dollars. And then the other part of the structure that worries me is, well, what are the terms for repayment for the 10 billion? They've not made those term sheets clear because they don't know who's giving them the money.
And who's going?
It's like any loan. The first thing you ask yourself, taking the loans, how are we going to pay it back?
And who's got to answer that question? Treasury?
Well, I think Minister Gordhan and Minister Mboweni are the only two people who can answer that question.
Thank you so much for your views this evening. Senior Business Rescue Practitioner Robin Nicholson discussing the issues around SAA.